Good morning, students. Today we are going to see a topic from English paper number 3. The title of the topic is Lost Generation Writers. So it is a group of American writers. It is a social group of American writers of 1920s. These writers were immigrants by nature. That is, they were migrated from one place to another. And they were living in Paris. They were American writers, but they were living in Paris. Here, loss means directionless. That is, the writing was not having any direction as such. The writers were not having any direction as such. The credit of creating this term for the first time in the history of American literature goes to Gertrude Stein. So she used the term for the first time, and Ernest Hemingway made the term popular. So Gertrude Stein created the term for the first time, coined the term, and Ernest Hemingway made it popular. Ernest Hemingway had said in the epigraph of his novel that was referred by Gertrude Stein. Gertrude Stein referred the remark made by Ernest Hemingway in the epigraph of his novel. The novel is The Sun Also Rises, where he had said that you are all lost generation. This remark was used by Gertrude Stein to coin the term called lost generation. So these writers were called lost generation because of certain reasons. What are those reasons? Those reasons are as follows. Number one, sense of moral loss. These writers were having the experience of having a sense of moral loss in American life, in American culture. And therefore, this was reflected in the writing of them. At the same time, life had become aimless. There was aimlessness in the life of American culture during this period. And therefore, this is one of the features, this is one of the cause behind the creation of this kind of social group in America during 1920s. Third cause behind the creation of this group is self-exile. So self-exile is one of the causes behind this creation, the creation of this social group in America. And the last one is spiritual separation. So here we find after the First World War and even during the First World War, life had become immoral. Life was not having any aim as such. People were having the experience of self-exile, and there was a type of spiritual separation. Because of these four causes, because of these four reasons, we find that a group of writers was emerged, and that too, this group of writers went to Paris, and the group was living there. So these are certain causes behind the creation of this social group in America. The First World War had destroyed the earlier ideas of morality. Before the World War, life was moral. Life was rather philosophical. Life was rather having certain aim. So there was a meaning for the survival of the human being before the First World War. But during and after the First World War, we find that life could have certain change. And these writers wrote during the war and after the war. Due to the moral loss, the then President of America had said, he had, rather I should say, declared the policy of back to normalcy. That is, let us turn towards the life which was there before the First World War. Let us go back to the life before the First World War. That is, let us live as per the principle on the basis of which we were living before the First World War. And therefore, he had declared the policy of back to normalcy. It is because both life and literature had become immoral. Both life and literature had become material. So, materiality was one of the basic features of American life during the First World War and after the First World War. And therefore, life had become totally material. People were giving importance to the material. They were giving importance to the object. And ultimately, we find that subject was totally kept aside. The feelings of the person, the feelings of the people, they were not important. What was important is the object, that is the material. And therefore, we find in the life of America during the First World War as well as after the First World War, life had been totally material, and it was totally emotionless. That is, life had become totally emotionless. So people were not giving importance to the emotion. People were giving importance to the materiality aspect of life. That is, objective approach to life was rather important rather than emotional approach to life. Thus, these writers criticized the American culture, the American way of life, the American approach to life after the war in their literature. And therefore, these writers did not like this kind of approach. They rejected this kind of material approach to life. They rejected the objective approach to life. So many examples are there, so many works of literature are there where we have this kind of materiality, criticism on materiality, criticism on emotionlessness in the life of Americans during the First World War and after that. So the very first example is the Greats Gatsby. So it describes, the book describes illusion of happiness. So for example, see here, even today also we are after happiness. We are trying to be happy, but actually in fact we do not enjoy the happiness. So that is a type of illusion of happiness. So this kind of sense of illusion of happiness is found in the book The Great Gatsby. The very novels of these writers, they describe the American lifestyle during 1920s. Even they have criticized the American life during 1920s. The writers were some major writers of this group were Ernest Hemingway, Fitzgerald, John Pesos, and many more. Their center of activity was totally Paris because they were migrants by nature, they were immigrants. They had left America and they were living in Paris. So the center of activity of these people was Paris. In this way, these writers, they were born between 1883 and 1900, but they wrote during the First World War and after the First World War. That is, they tried to describe the effect of war on human life. So during the First World War, they were writing. At the same time, after the First World War, they tried to point out that how life had been totally material, how life had been totally objective, how there was no place for emotion in the life of each and every human being. So that is what the concern of these writers. They described the American life of that period, and even they criticized the very American life and the very American culture too. So this is the law generation writers, their rather role in the history of American literature. So in the next period, we will be turning towards the examples that we have seen, the examples that we have referred today, maybe the Great Gatsby and certain novels written by Ernest Hemingway, even certain works by John Pesos. So in the next lecture, we'll be dealing these works in detail. Thank you.